Betty Marion White was an American actress, author, television host, and comedian. Betty White was a pioneer of early television, with a television career spanning more than 7 decades. She was noted for her vast work in the entertainment industry and being one of the first women to work both in front of and behind the cameras. Betty White was the first woman to produce a sitcom, Life with Elizabeth, in the United States, which contributed to her being named Honorary Mayor of Hollywood in 1955. Betty White was often referred to as the First Lady of Television, a title used for a 2018 documentary detailing her life and career. Betty Marion White was estimated to have a net worth of $75 million. Betty Marion White's early life. Betty Marion White was born in Oak Park, Illinois, on January 17, 1922. She was an only child of Christine Tess, a homemaker, and Horace Logan White, a lighting company executive from Michigan. Her parental grandfather was Danish, and her maternal grandmother was Greek. In addition, both of her grandmothers were Canadians with roots in Ontario. Apart from that, Betty White's family moved from Alhambra, California in 1923, when she was a little over a year old, and later to Los Angeles during the Great Depression. Her father built crystal radios and sold them wherever he could. Since it was the height of the Depression, and hardly anyone had a sizable income, he would exchange the radios for other goods, including dogs, on some occasions. Betty White attended Horace Mann Elementary School in Beverly Hills and Beverly Hills High School, graduating in 1939. Her interest in wildlife was sparked by family vacations to the Sierra Nevada. She initially aspired to be a forest ranger, but was unable to accomplish this because women were not allowed to serve as rangers at that time. Instead, Betty pursued an interest in writing. She wrote and played the lead in a graduation play at Horace Mann School and discovered her interest in performing. Inspired by her idols Jeanette MacDonald and Nelson Eddy, she decided to pursue a career as an actress. 1 month after her high school graduation, she and a classmate sang songs from The Merry Window on an experimental television show, as the medium of television itself was still in development. Betty White found modeling work, and her first professional acting job was at the Bliss Hayden Little Theater. After the United States entered World War II in 1941, Betty volunteered for the American Women's Voluntary Services. Her assignment included driving a PX truck with military supplies to the Hollywood Hills. She also participated in events for troops before they were deployed overseas. Betty Marion White's personal life. Betty White had 2 short-lived marriages before she met game show host Alan Ludden in 1961. The couple married 2 years later. Although Ludden passed away from stomach cancer in 1981, Betty White didn't remarry. Apart from that, Betty White as stepmother to Ludden's 3 children from a previous marriage, as their mother had also died from cancer in 1961. About Betty Marion White's death. On the morning of December 31st, 2021, Betty White died in her sleep at her home in a Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles from a stroke she had on Christmas Day. She was 99 years old, and her remains were cremated and given to Glenn Kaplan, who was entrusted with carrying out her advanced healthcare directive. Betty Marion White's professional career. Betty White graduated from high school in 1939, the same year the Second World War broke out. Nevertheless, the USA wouldn't enter the conflict for many years, and White immediately found acting and modeling work after leaving school. However, the war caught up with America soon enough, and White's early access as an actress was halted as she prioritized serving her country over her career. She volunteered for the American Women's Voluntary Service, aiding in the transport of military supplies across California. After the war, Betty tried to break into the film industry in Los Angeles, but she was turned down by all the major studios. They told her she wasn't photographic enough, so she turned to radio industry instead. As a radio performer, Betty made decent money and soon appeared on major radio shows for the time. Eventually, she was even given her own radio show, The Betty White Show. Later, Betty White's major breakthrough in acting came when she acted as a co-host to Al Jarvis in the 1949 television program Hollywood on Television. In 1952, Betty also created her own production company with help from a writer and a producer. After the end of the Golden Girls in the early 90s, Betty went on to book a number of roles in shows like Yes, Dear and Suddenly Susan. In the 2000s, White appeared in shows such as Boston Legal and The Practice. In 2019, she joined the cast of Toy Story 4, voicing the character of a toy tiger called Bitey White. Betty Marion White's Real Estate. In 1978, Betty and Alan Ludden paid $170,000 for an undeveloped property in Carmel by the Sea, California. They proceeded to construct a 3,700 square foot, 4-bedroom home with incredible views of the ocean. The property was later sold in 2022. Betty also owned a home in LA's Brentwood neighborhood, which also sold in 2022. And with that, thanks for watching.